Kikulacho kinguoni mwako is a Swahili proverb which means that which eats you is with you. Actually, it's living in your cloth. That which sucks you. Lice will not live further from you. It will always suck you from within. Yes, lice are parasites. Apparently, we have some Africans who are parasites as well. See, when the colonizer was coming to Africa, he was looking for these people. He would manipulate to get his hands into the people or the properties of the Africans. It was either I get your property or I get your people. Choose one or choose both. Those Africans who sold their people are Africans whom we say collaborated. We don't want to say they betrayed us because they are one of us. We don't want to kick them away, so we say they collaborated. And those Africans who stood by our own stance, we say we resisted. The influence of those Africans who collaborated and those who resisted is felt up to date. The West, or rather the colonizer, would not just move to Africa and colonize Africa if he didn't have a hand, or rather if he didn't have a puppet he would use to get his works done. Africans are being used against Africans. And who is better at that job than Africans? No one. Africans, we are really good at selling one another. That is one thing I've noticed we are really good at. If it were not for the collaboration of Africans with the white people, there are some parts of Africa that would have never been touched. And the problem is that these people who collaborated are still alive, up to date. The idea of selling out Africans is still there, up to date. In Africa right now, the Berlin Conference divided us into 55 or rather 54 countries. The Berlin Conference is a result of the collaboration. Today we have trade blocks. East Africa, we have the East African Community. Southern Africa, we have the SADC, South Africa Development Community. In West Africa, we have the ECOWAS. In some parts of Africa, we have the COMESA. This is because some Africans decided to betray other Africans for their own good. In this video, a brother is sharing how this was done. A brother who is an African American. No, he's an African. And he's giving examples of countries that are being used by the West to bring their influence here and to bring their colonialism of the present day. Now, before we say much, let's dive into this video where I shall share with you my thoughts. By the end of the video, we shall also have a deep critical analysis.
Here are 4 strategic African countries that the United States and its allies in the West has captured to keep a hold of Africa and keep Africa enslaved. Number 1, Nigeria. Yes. If you control Nigeria, you control the whole of West Africa. Nigeria, of course, they've got a good network of roads from Nigeria to other West African countries. They've got air transport well linked to all the cities in West Africa. And Nigeria militarily is the biggest. You know, Americans have made Nigeria the biggest military deliberately so that they can easily control West Africa, intimidate other countries. That's how they've kept control. And recently, they pampered the Nigerian economy artificially to become Africa's biggest, when it's not true. You cannot have Africa's biggest economy with 13 million people threatened by hunger in 2024. It doesn't happen. You can't hear of hunger in South Africa. I mean, Gauteng alone in South Africa is the biggest economy. You can't compare with any country, but it's just a district in South Africa. So it's not true that Nigeria is the biggest economy. Americans twerk. They brought down the South African economy. Remember what they did with the banks, conniving with the banks to bring down the rand and all that, so that they should lose track when it comes to Standard and Poor credit rating? Yeah, that's America trying to pamper Nigeria. And why did they pamper Nigeria like that? They were trying to hit back at South Africa for joining the BRICS. Yeah, you get it? So, control Nigeria, you control West Africa. And you know, when they pamper these people, they pamper them socially as well. Nigerians feel like they're top dogs in West Africa, you know, and you know, you cannot talk to a Nigerian about Pan-Africanism. Have you heard a Nigerian talking about Pan-Africanism? If there is, very few. But they don't talk Pan-Africanism. You know, they feel like they're top dogs, America is with them and all that. You know, they pamper them socially, deliberately, so that they should have no feelings for any other West African country when it's suffering under the boot of the United States and its allies. And, you know Nigerians with Israel. You know, Israel is there. the heaven, their promised land. You know, you cannot talk to a Nigerian about genocide in Israel. You can't, because they did a good job of brainwashing Nigerians in that area. Let's not even go there. Country number 2, Egypt. Yes, control Egypt, you control North Africa. All the countries, Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, Sudan, Ethiopia, they are under Egypt. Egypt is superior militarily, economically, and Egypt is well linked by road, by rail, by air transport, very well linked in North Africa. And as usual, the Americans have pampered the Egyptians to feel that they are most important people in North Africa. So when they hear that this such country, like they did to Libya, devastating that country, the Egyptians were just, oh, well, it's none of our business. We're good with the United States, So they have pampered them economically, socially, so that they should have no feelings for any other. Like they're eating on the same table, but they're not really. They're just another African country that they're exploiting, and that's how the United States plays this game. So you control Egypt, you control North Africa. Third country that the United States and its allies strategically controls on the African continent is Kenya. Kenya is well placed strategically. The rails and road networks from Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, all of them connect to Kenya. And they did that deliberately because they want to get a good grip on East Africa. The United States deliberately made the Kenyan army the strongest army. And that's for a reason. They're sending them into Haiti to keep the peace in Haiti. But in actual fact, they're doing the dirty work for the United States in Haiti. They're doing that in Somalia already. They sent their troops in Somalia on the orders of the United States to keep the peace in Somalia. But they're doing the dirty work there. They're simply trying to make sure that all East African countries are kept in check and the United States keeps its control over the eastern part of Africa. Yes, talk to a Kenyan about Pan-Africanism. How many Kenyans have spoken Pan-Africanism? One guy, Patrice Lumumba, I give it up to him. I give it up to you, sir. But he's a lone star. Kenyans don't share the same sentiments with Patrice Lumumba when it comes to Pan-Africanism. He's like a desert flower. Rose, I don't know what they call those flowers that you just find in the desert, just there, alone in the middle of nowhere. That's Patrice Lumumba. Kenyans have been socially pampered by the Americans to feel superior to everybody in East Africa. There's a reason for that. That's what Americans do best. They pamper you so that you feel nothing for the others who are suffering. Just look at what they've done with our African leaders. They are so rich, they are billionaires, but they are running the poorest countries on earth, and they feel no remorse. Fourth country that the United States and its allies in the West control is South Africa. Yes, if you control South Africa, you control the whole of Southern Africa. South Africa has got a good road network into Africa, rail, air, and if you control the South African economy, you control the whole of Southern African economy. And the United States was very scared when they saw that, oh, these guys, they've gone to BRICS. Oh, these guys have kicked Israel out. But Ramaphosa is paying a big price for that because they are coming hard on him. They want a regime change. In this 2024 election, the ANC has lost its majority in parliament. They've divided the South Africans so good. As usual, the Americans, they have pampered the South Africans to make them feel like they're the most special guys in Southern Africa, and they won't care a thing about Pan-Africanism because the Americans do it best. They'll pamper you to make you feel important and part of them. And South Africans are light-skinned. Maybe they feel like they're closer to the white skin. Maybe. Because they voted for a white party, DA. The party that says in its manifesto that they'll never give the land back to the black people. That's the party that South Africans have voted for to keep it in second place and very, very close to power. But the party that speaks Pan-Africanism like the EFF, they've kicked it so far down to fourth place. And very, very soon, the DA might start ruling South Africa, slow by slow. America wants South Africa back. and they want to punish Ramaphosa. And the Americans are sending a message that if you stand against America and Israel, you're going to pay the price. And this is the message they're sending to Ramaphosa right now. So the Americans are fighting to get South Africa back. This is exactly what is happening. America has gotten hold of the whole of Africa using 4 countries: Nigeria, Egypt, Kenya, and South Africa.
You know, many people really don't understand things how they work. You see, many Africans, we are like, oh, you can speak fluent English. Oh, you can do this and that. You travel to such and such places. We are quick to throw away what's ours, to accept what's not really ours. You get it? Now, this man is saying the West is using proxy. The West is a representation of the United States of America. It's using proxies in Africa to make sure that its policies are continued. The gentleman, my own country, he stated South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt. Nigeria is the biggest country in Africa in terms of population, with over 200 million people living in such a small country, you know. And the other day I was telling you that the French forces and the American forces, those foreign forces were chased away from Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And then they were welcomed into Nigeria. But the Nigerians were really not happy about this. Nigerians were sad, and they really didn't seem excited. One thing people must understand is this: dependency is one key factor. You know, when you take debt from someone, you become their slave. You are enslaved to those people by that debt. The debt is like the chains that tie you down. Now, because Africans, or rather these countries that the gentleman has stated, I know there are many countries, not only these 4, we take a lot from those people. You understand? We take a lot, and so once we take that much, they tell us, if you want us to continue giving you, or if you want us to ease the burden of paying the debt, because it also comes with an interest, do this for us. You understand? Africans are blackmailed. If you don't do this, we won't give you this. Remember what happened in Uganda. In Uganda, the president, Yoweri Museveni, was told, if you don't pass the anti-gay law, we will support you. But if you pass the anti-gay law, we won't support you. And his response was, no, you can keep your aid if your aid comes with an intention of demoralizing Africa. That is an old man, a president, a whole president, discussing the impacts of allowing aid and how it's going to affect its nation and its citizen. Me listening to this man, what I can understand here is, once we stop borrowing from these particular people, they won't have something to hold on and to tell us that you have to do this. Because there's nothing that is connecting us. If there's nothing that is connecting us, we don't have much. The other day, you saw the Republic, UN was brought from New York to Nairobi. It was during the presidency of Dr. William Samoei Ruto. It was during the presidency of Dr. William Samoei Ruto that you saw a lot of youth demonstrated. That was historical. It has never happened like this in the history of this nation. This tells you something. You saw in Nigeria, the youths also demonstrated anti-corruption, anti-taxations, anti-this and that. People are everywhere. They are draconian because it is not the Africans that are implementing them. It is the West that is implementing them on the Africans, but the African leaders, because they borrowed from those people, they got no option. And if they got no option, they got to comply. If they don't comply, consequences shall arise. But how greedy our leaders are, they will accept it. That's the unfortunate truth. I was speaking upon the economy of South Africa and that of Nigeria. Nigeria's economy, you cannot compare to South Africa. South Africa has many reasons to be where it is today. It's the biggest economy in Africa. The man stated that Gauteng's province economy is greater than any other country in Africa. And that is just a part of the whole South Africa. Last I checked, a part is not greater than the whole. Yes, that's all for this video. I hope you get enlightened and you understand why Africans should rely on their own selves and not on the aid being brought to us, because if we rely on the aid, we will get tied to those policies and we will be hurting our own people. That's it for today. If you like my content, if you really do, subscribe, support me on Patreon. I'll so much appreciate, and see you in the next one.